This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
Football Friday.
Sponsored by Brian's Heating and Cooling.
Brian's Heating and Cooling, where they take your comfort personally. Give them a call for all your commercial and residential comfort needs. 803-796-1788 or briansheatingandcooling.com.
Antoine Juice Wells breaks away at the 30, 20, going for the pylon at the 5, dives for it. Call it. Touchdown, Carolina.
Football Friday on your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
All right, welcome in. It's Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on your Football Friday on The Game. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you for the next hour, getting you set for Gamecocks and Furman coming up tomorrow night at 7:30. Of course, you can listen to all the action here on The Game if you are not going to be in attendance tomorrow night. Unfortunately, guys, looks like the rain is starting to creep in a little bit. Might get a little bit wet out there at Willie B, and hopefully that does not have an effect on the game, but it's looking kind of worse and worse as we get closer and closer.
Tyler, why do you keep speaking this into existence? You started this yesterday. No, you started this
pointing
yesterday.
It out.
Now, here we are. It's gonna rain. It's gonna be awful.
Well, blame Colin because he gave me a detailed forecast in the 9 o'clock hour. He's right there. You can tell him.
Colin, your fault.
Y'all are both way too
But
negative.
no, Tyler started this yesterday. You can't blame Colin. You said yesterday, guys, they're not going to be able to throw the football because of the weather.
I did not say they weren't going to be able to throw the football. I said you might be more lenient towards the run because of the rain.
Semantics.
Yeah.
That's a Twitter take for me, I guess. Just completely
You took my words and twisted them is what you did.
Misrepresent what you said. But y'all know what's crazy about college football season is we wait for all off season, and then we preview the first game for like 3 months, and then once it's rolling, it's like a blur basically.
It is. It's hard to we did have we broke down every single nook and cranny of the UNC game, and now it's all right, you just you run out of time almost during the week.
It's like, all right, who plays for Furman? Who do I need to know?
Yeah.
What's the scheme, and what's going to happen tomorrow?
I can name the first 3 of those. I can't give you the score because mine last week was inadequate.
Well, you and Terry picked the same exact score in the predictions, by the way.
That was my first problem.
I don't think anybody got the score right last week.
Well, everybody picked South Carolina. So
except one person, right?
I think so. Colin can answer that question better.
Colin, didn't everybody pick the Gamecocks? He's shaking his head yes. So
Colin's still in studio, by the way.
Not only did no one get the score right, they didn't even get the team right, myself included. So good on us. And I'm guessing everybody's picking South Carolina this week as well.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
We'll find out if Terry has sent in his pick yet or not.
Well, I've sent in mine.
I sent mine last night.
Everybody else has sent theirs in, and so we'll do that. Last part of the
we'll close out with
latter part of the hour. We'll do that.
Well, you're going to have to go ahead and say who's going to win the game and buy or sell.
That's true. Okay, so that'll be a little bit later. So stay tuned. Wes, first though, I want to give you the opportunity to have our public service announcement today here on the station. How can people watch the game? Are there still there's still people sitting at home There's a screen here that is still showing. This is the new, but the blue screen of death on the computer. This is the new blue screen of death here.
Well, Spectrum's on our side though, guys. They're telling us ESPN hates us and they love us.
I was laughing at this earlier. This is funny.
And the website's like Disney hates you, Spectrum is your best friend.com or something.
How about ESPN having the guts to send out the email saying, "Hey guys, sign up for Hulu Live if you're mad at Spectrum."
Wow.
Guess what? We also own that.
Yeah.
Disney owns that's.
They
I
do.
mean,
well, and not to get on the side of this,
we're on it.
Spectrum's the one losing out here because they're the ones that's like, well, I'm unsubscribing from y'all and I'm canceling my service and blah blah blah. ESPN's still raking in the dough, obviously. It's Spectrum that's feeling the effect of this. What it boils down to is ESPN was saying, okay, we want you to up your fees because we want you to charge this much for our channels. And Spectrum's like, well, we don't want to do that. ESPN's like, okay, well, you don't get our stuff anymore. And that's the fight that's going on.
Yeah, and apparently Spectrum also wants to be able to have packages that do not include sports, which usually every single one of your base packages, or I shouldn't say sports, I should say ESPN.
Yeah.
And all your traditional basic cable packages include ESPN. So they want they're trying, I believe Spectrum is, to cater to customers who don't like sports but might still buy a super cheap package and try to compete with streaming. But right now, I mean, once again, just like with shortening the college football games to show more ads, the fans are who gets punished here. No one that I've talked to cares what the issue is. No one cares whose side they should be on. No one cares. It's kind of like that one meme or GIF that's just like the guy yelling, "Figure it out." Like, just figure it out. Nobody cares about the minutia of this. They just want their football games. And right now, if you're in the Southeast, you actually have very few options for streaming that will get you Major League Baseball local and also get you ESPN.
Yep.
So, again, just figure it out. That's really all there is to it. If you want to watch the game on Saturday, it does affect you. Like, frankly, this is not one of those, hey, it'll be okay. If you're a Spectrum customer, it does affect you. Games on SEC Network Plus and ESPN Plus, if you have a provider, a TV provider, whether that's satellite cable or live TV streaming package that includes ESPN, includes SEC Network, then you do have SEC Network Plus. That's my PSA for every single one of these games. You don't have to buy ESPN Plus. Mm-hmm. If you already have SEC Network, just go to the ESPN app, log in with your credentials for whatever, Hulu Live TV, YouTube TV, whatever it is, log in with that. You don't have to pay for the game. Now, if you have Spectrum and then you try to log in, it will not show you the game. I've tested it.
Tell you you're not eligible for that anymore. Find somebody that does have a valid login.
That's the unofficial answer, right?
Yeah, friends, family, whatever it may be. Like, hey, you've got YouTube TV. Let me use your login real quick so I can watch this game on ESPN.
And so if that's not an option for you, then normally, and I've had people ask, can't I just buy ESPN Plus to watch ESPN? No, that is not the case. But for this game, it is on ESPN Plus. So if push comes to shove, and you end up having to just pay for ESPN Plus, you will be able to stream the game by doing so.
I feel like we're eventually going to get to the point where ESPN is going to have a streaming service that allows you to access all their channels for a flat rate, like $20 a month, where you can get ESPN, ESPN2, U, and all that kind of stuff. Because as of right now, with the contracts they have with these television companies, YouTube TV, Spectrum, DirecTV, and all that kind of stuff, doesn't allow them to do that. But that's what everybody would love to have, obviously.
I think that's probably a layer of this current negotiation. Mm-hmm. Because especially the older contracts, either didn't allow, and I'm talking in general here, didn't allow for certain type of streaming. The streaming rights were sometimes separate. Now I imagine every contract very distinctly mentions who has the rights to stream, how it can be structured, all those different things. So we are kind of we're turning a page right now, and this is you can tell this is bigger than your usual. We've seen this before where a channel is out for like 24 hours.
Yeah,
and
it
both
usually
sides
doesn't last this long.
Yeah, both sides are like, oh yeah. All right, we figured it out. Like I give, and they meet in the middle. This one feels deeper than that. I have one more thought on this. Okay. So the contract ended on 8/31 was the last day of the contract, right?
Yeah.
That was last Thursday.
Yeah.
Who made the decision not to put the football game on or the U.S. Open on?
Who decided to cut it right then?
Yeah.
That would be Spectrum.
So,
because they're the ones that like, hey, we're going to cut it off at this point in time, pretty much, the way I understand it.
Yeah, so that's allegedly. That's y'all can fill in the blank for a word there, but if the contract didn't end to the end of the day, but then they said, "Nah, we really care about our customers."
Well, they wanted to get a rise out of people.
Yeah, it worked, but
because they knew millions tuning in for the first notable college football game of the season, and you cut off 2 minutes before kickoff, yeah, you're going to make some people upset and angry phone calls and all that kind of stuff, which, again, leads to this blue screen of like, hey, we like you guys. It's ESPN that's the bad guy. Go attack them.
Yeah, right now, at that moment, they still had access to ESPN programming.
They did for another 4 hours.
Chose not to show it.
Yeah.
I saw a story in Forbes in June, and ESPN gets, let me find the number, $942 per month from its programming distributors. It's the highest in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting that, and a lot of $9.42 a month per subscriber. Is what I would think. Yep, right. So if you're paying, let's just make up a round number, $100 to a cable company.
Yeah.
Right. Cable companies bringing it in. They obviously have a lot of different costs to grab that programming. They're paying ESPN.
Now, is that just for ESPN or is that the Disney channels in general?
That is ESPN.
Okay, just ESPN.
And now what does that include? Is that two?
ESPN
and is that
yeah,
plus?
I would
I
actually thought even more than that.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but you look at it like and this was pointed out by the Charter CEO. He mentioned Charter Spectrum. He mentioned that, hey, Disney is charging these huge fees. ESPN's getting these huge fees, but then they're saying, well, you also need to get ESPN Plus. So they're kind of double dipping. But
right.
this direct to consumer product that ESPN is talking about doing, they may be able to double dip, triple dip.
Yeah.
And ultimately they have, I think one of y'all said it earlier. They've got the upper hand in all this. They have hand, as George Costanza would say.
And so the ESPN Plus thing, too, maybe not from a legal standpoint, but also I really feel like there's a little bit of just a lot of people misunderstand what that even means.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine they're kind of okay with that. Like, I think some people think, oh, I'm getting ESPN Plus. That includes this, this, and this. And then it really, you almost don't always even know what you're paying for if you don't really pay close attention to it, which again,
sure.
I think they're probably completely okay with that. I mean, the not the College World Series, but the baseball postseason, the regionals this year, they all of a sudden were like, oh, this is on ESPN Plus only for certain games. If you want to watch your team, you have to subscribe. So, I get it. That's a subscribe. We run a website that is subscriber based.
It's business at the end of the day.
It is business, but also, hey, from the ESPN side, they may hold the upper hand, but at the same time, they've already signed all these contracts for all these massive TV rights deals, and so you turn around. In some ways, they do need Spectrum as well. The more that they need those households to be watching ESPN. Now, Spectrum made a point later this week, and that was that, hey, once y'all run off all of our customers who were watching Spectrum for ESPN, then there becomes a point where we being Spectrum / Charter. The damage is done. They already moved along.
Right. Speaking of getting down to business, we'll do that coming up as we hit buy or sell, our favorite segment of the week. That's next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game.
Afford Anything talks about how to avoid common pitfalls, how to refine your mental models, and how to think about how to think.
In the world of money and investing, it can be easy to be dogmatic about your beliefs. You're part of the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, or you hate it, you hate it, you hate it. And either you embrace credit cards as a route to getting airline reward, or you follow the Dave Ramsey camp and believe that you shouldn't touch them because if you play with snakes, you might get bit. Afford Anything, wherever you listen.
Football Friday.
Sponsored by Brian's Heating and Cooling.
On your home of the Gamecocks. In Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Know how to win. They're a veteran group. They've played a lot of football together. Said it on Tuesday. They've won 8 out of their last 9. And the only loss was by 3 points, and that was in the playoffs last year. And that was a game where they had the ball going in to score, and they're in field goal range and threw an interception. So you named every starter is either a junior, a senior, or a graduate. They led the nation last year in forcing turnovers. They led the nation last year in block kicks. So they know what they're doing. They're well coached. They went into Clemson last year and battled the heck out of them, so they won't be too bright-eyed coming in here on Saturday, and we're going to have to play well.
Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Tyler West and Chris with you on this Football Friday. That was the voice of Coach Beamer last night on Carolina Calls, previewing Furman, who is coming into Williams-Brice Stadium tomorrow night. It's now time for our weekly favorite, Buy or Sell.
We need a jingle for Buy or Sell. So if we got anybody out there that wants to, be involved in the production of our show.
I could play Sandstorm in the background if you want me to.
Well, I feel like it needs its own unique. Plus, Darude, when he comes to town in a few weeks, he may sue us for that. So
that's true. Yeah, we don't want that.
Or he could do a custom version for free.
Yeah.
To play.
Reach out to us, 803-404-6100, if you can come up with the Buy or Sell jingle.
Yeah, Firehouse Subs
Dayrude's
text
listening.
Line. Yeah, I wonder if Darude's ever even watched the South Carolina football game.
I don't think Darude is ready for what he's going to experience with an SEC football game.
He's going to be like,
well, these people are insane.
What is this?
All right, let's get down to it. Buy or Sell, as always, brought to you by my friend Kendall Walsh and Dwell Columbia team. I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a moment. Let's kick it right off. Guys, buy or sell 10 true freshmen play for South Carolina tomorrow evening at Williams-Brice Stadium.
Now, this can be getting on the field in any capacity, right?
Any capacity.
I'll buy.
Okay, I'm buying as well. Chris is counting. We don't talk about these ahead of time. I put the guys on the spot. I'm buying. Tyler Head is buying. Chris
I'll buy.
is going to buy too.
Yep. You were writing. Did you see my fingers counting?
No, I just already knew you were going to buy that.
Yeah, you're right.
How high would it have had to go for y'all to sell? 13?
Yeah, that was the number that popped in my head with it, and I didn't finish my counting because you interrupted my process.
Yeah, I think 15 would have been a little too much.
13 would have made me hesitate.
13 would have.
Yeah,
I would have sold at 13.
I would have hesitated for sure. I might have sold 15. I would have sold, just not even looking at counting through my list.
I think 10's a fair number.
Do y'all think 10 will play?
Now, do we know how many true freshmen, the total number last week?
Not near 10.
I mean, I know it wasn't near 10, but at least a couple got on the field.
So, let's see if Nick Carver.
Yeah.
Vakari Swain.
Mm-hmm.
He played a little bit.
Very, very, very end.
Jalen Kilgore.
Yeah.
Judge Collier.
Also at the very, very final drive, I think.
That counts. They played.
Yeah.
No offensive lineman last time, right?
Yeah. Only Harbor at receiver, no running backs.
I think Desu played a snap.
Yeah.
So that's 5.
Pup Power did not play.
So,
this is probably going over easy.
Yeah, so we know Pup's going to play. You expect DJ Braswell to get some time.
I would think so.
You would imagine probably like an Elijah Caldwell, most likely Lenore Sellers as well.
Yep.
Like, that's 9.
Connor Cox at tight end.
Yeah,
probably
that's
see
10.
him on special teams at least.
Like, I think 10's a pretty easy number to hit.
13 buy or sell.
Two offensive linemen.
13 buy or sell. I think now that we talked through it, I still buy that.
Yeah, I'd still buy that.
Chris, would you sell it or buy it?
Let me buy it. I'll buy it.
Okay. All right. All right. We're moving on. We can't go any higher. Nick Harbor, first career catch as a Gamecock on Saturday evening. Chris Clark came up with this one, so he can give us his answer first.
I will buy. I think there will be.
We're just going to buy them all.
A force feed of some type. Like, here's a screen.
Yeah,
or something.
I think this is the perfect kind of game for that. I'll buy it.
All right, so do I. Whoever did these questions did an awful job. All right, we're filling in the blank on the fly here for this next one. Okay. We already know what the last one is, except it's got a little tweak to it. So, South Carolina will win the turnover battle against Furman on Saturday. Again, South Carolina did not turn the ball over at all this past Saturday. Huge focus for them. But Furman creates a lot of turnovers, creates a lot of issues as well.
Yeah, this is a team led at FCS in takeaways last season, got 6 in game 1 against Tennessee Tech. I'll still buy Carolina winning it, though. So I'm 3 buys across the board.
I'll sell this one. I think you're going to have not just
selling out of principle,
partially, but no. I think South Carolina's going to play a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
Furman obviously plays a bunch of veterans. They're going to know the little intricacies and stuff. This is going to be a well-coached team. Now, sometimes you see turnovers in a game like this just because one team is bigger and stronger and faster. So you could see some of those. But I think as far as protecting the football and being veterans, that plays into Furman's hands in this one. Chris, you buying or selling?
I'm still going to buy.
Okay. So we bought across the board except for Wes selling on this one.
Yep.
All right. Has anybody seen an actual, I know the big boy folks don't, but has anybody seen a line on this game?
I couldn't find one.
Have you?
Oh, nope, but I'll effort one. I'll give it a nice try. If one exists.
If one exists, we'll try and find it. We'll also hear a little bit of what Coach Beamer had to say last night on Carolina Calls, but that was buy or sell as Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, rolls on here on the game. Welcome back.
You loved Lala Kent on Vanderpump Rules. Now get to know her on Give Them Lala.
I feel like I have friends in this camera.
I know. I love that you're looking at the camera. No, you do have friends.
No, I know.
Anyone
I feel
watching
like they're
you.
all here.
Yes.
We're all just like hanging out. Ocean's very into thumbs up right now. She's like this in her face. Thumbs up. We do it all the time. She loves that face.
I love that. Give one to your friends.
Watch what Lala is talking about on YouTube or search for Give Them Lala wherever you listen.
Again, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Tyler, West, and Chris with you on this Football Friday, getting closer and closer to kickoff for the first home game for the Gamecocks of the season. First time they've been back in Williams-Brice Stadium since that magical night against Tennessee last November. And with that, we have a little bit of our buy or sell segment to wrap up. Had to keep that last segment a little bit short there because of our technical issues, but now wrapping up buy or sell.
Yeah, so we wrap it up. Normally, or sometimes we'll do South Carolina wins the game, buy or sell. I'm setting a random line myself. I think they do put out some lines for FBS, FCS on game day maybe, but generally, at least this time of week, your big boy books don't do these. So buy or sell, South Carolina will win the game by 20 points or more.
Buy.
Based on my score prediction I gave, I'm gonna have to sell on this one.
Okay. All right, so we got
Wes is happy. We have conflict.
Yeah,
we have differences here.
Finally.
Why, Tyler?
I just feel like this is kind of one of those games that Furman has the ability to keep close for, a half, maybe even 3/4. Again, you think the offensive line and defensive lines are going to be better than what we saw a week ago, just considering the talent you're going up against, but we're not going to know until we actually see it on the field, and there's every chance in the world that Furman could wreak havoc as well. Maybe not to the degree that North Carolina did a week ago, but could still give you problems to where I just don't know if you can pull away from them and make this be a 63-7 game like you expect an FCS opponent beat down to be, I feel like this is going to be one that you might sweat a little bit through two quarters, maybe 3 quarters, and then pull away in the end, but, uncomfortable for longer than we hope it would be.
Yeah, and I tend to feel like that clock thing we talked about yesterday, too.
Mm-hmm.
If Furman hangs in there, then I think they're just going to say, we're going to milk this clock the whole way. Like, I think this is going to have maybe a greater effect on games than maybe they even realized when they put this rule in. Let's see. I went back and checked. I had South Carolina winning by 21.
Okay.
So, by default, I'm kind of buying it. But, I mean, there's no real conviction in that prediction for me. Like, I looked back. That Clemson game that Beamer keeps referencing, Clemson won that game 35-12. So, it's not that with that score, the game's not really in danger, but at the same time, that's not a blowout.
It's closer than you want it to be.
Yes, it's more uncomfortable than fans want to be in Williams-Brice Stadium.
Bonus buy or sell for Tyler and US. Is it a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter? Buy or sell?
Ooh.
Pretty good one.
Fourth quarter, I will sell that.
Same.
I'll buy it.
Oh,
I think.
Oh, Tyler.
Tyler, it's going to rain and people are going to be sitting there.
Tyler's projecting. I feel like halftime 1-score game.
I think
so.
You sell a halftime 1-score game?
Yeah.
Chris Clark said it's
Tyler
going to be a blowout.
I mean, if I'm going to buy it for the
Tyler.
third quarter, may as well buy it for halftime.
Tyler,
as well,
anything
right?
good going to happen on Saturday?
They're going to win.
Okay.
I'll give them that. I don't know.
In the rain, a close game.
What I saw last weekend, I'm worried.
No, I hear you.
They're going to win, but Gamecock fans will be miserable throughout. That's the life.
In the rain, according to Tyler. Tyler, we'll give out Tyler's Twitter handle again. Random.
Yeah.
Let him know your thoughts.
Hit him up. But yeah, that's been buy or sell extended edition here on the GC Takeover Hour.
Coach Beamer yesterday speaking on Carolina calls, detailed a lot of different things. He spoke about injuries going into this game, kind of detailed the injury report, as well as talking specifically about Nicky Manwari and Mokaba. Here's what he had to say last night.
What happened, but credit to the guys that came in and overcame it. As far as this week, Marquis Anderson will be out. He won't play. Nicky Manwari will be out. He won't play. JT Gear is out. He won't play. David Spalding is out. He won't play. And Kason Henry is out. He won't play. I think he'll be okay. I hurt for Nick because he wanted so badly to go back in that game last Saturday. I mean, it hurt him not to be physically, but then to not be able to go back in the game just emotionally because he's such a competitor. He worked really hard this week, and you're right, the hamstrings are things that can certainly linger. We don't want that to happen. We're optimistic that he'll be ready to go.
Happened to him. How's Mo doing? How's his spirits?
He's struggling, as you can imagine, and I hurt for the kid. You're exactly right. He loves football. Put so much into last season, and then had it taken away after 2 games, and then to go through the whole spring and summer like he did, was enjoying being out on the field. Always had a smile on his face, and then I think he played 4 plays. And to get hurt again, tough deal. But need Gamecock Nation to certainly keep him in their prayers and wrap their arms around him. He's a fantastic young man, but he's certainly struggling right now, as you can imagine he would be.
It's kind of a mashup of a couple of different answers last night in Carolina Calls. Last one, obviously talking about Mokaba, which we talked about plenty going on this week. Eamon Worry going to be out, which that's to be expected, and he tried to go again at the end of the game last week, and just it wasn't working for him. But you feel like you should be able to beat a team like Furman without Eamon Worry out there, and again, you want him as close to 100% as possible for Georgia next week.
I think anytime you're talking about hamstrings too, you got to be very careful with them. It's one of those things that you don't really know until you test it again, and then when you test it again, you may end up tweaking it and adding another 2-3 weeks or whatever it is. So, you could feel the frustration from Nick when it happened. I think nobody wanted to be out there more than him, but I'm sure he wants to be out there with his guys. This is a good week, though, for him to sit out, let it fully heal. Great opportunity for Jalen Kilgore to keep getting snaps. Good chance to keep building some depth. And, Kilgore's a guy I think will play a major role in this rotation as the year goes on. The other guys, or even Nick himself, too, most of those were pretty expected. Like, I think when they said doubtful earlier this week, you kind of thought they would be out for sure. They are. Me personally, I'm hopeful and ready to see JT Gears debut at some point, but that's another one where it seems to be something that has plagued him for a few weeks now.
All these are just really impactful. Those guys that he went over where he says he won't go. He's not going to play. It's not a super, super long list, but it was a long list, and it was all guys who were impactful in some role or another, or could be, right? Like we haven't gotten to see JT Gear yet in a Gamecock uniform, but he was someone that was expected to potentially be a starter for this team, listed as a co-starter at worst. So he could have helped you last game. He could help you in this game. Case and Henry, we've gone over that one. I don't know if that one, for purposes of the North Carolina game, may have been the biggest one, given what we saw on the offensive line. Losing Case and Henry for that game may have been the biggest one, and now it's still a big deal because obviously they're still in the position where they're trying to figure out some things on the offensive line. But you're banged up. You're a banged-up football team already, and you've got it at some key positions. Now, the bad news on Kaba is he's out. Henry, he's going to be out for a while per Shea Bieber. We'll see. But the other guys, you have a chance of getting back soon, right? So you need to go out, play well, survive this week, and then as you get back into conference play, hopefully you get as many of these guys possible as possible.
We'll give our final thoughts and wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. But first, given that we are talking about the Furman game, let's give people a chance to win a pair of tickets.
Football Friday.
Sponsored by Brian's Heating and Cooling.
On your home of the Gamecocks in Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Also heard on 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach.
And 100.5 The Game in Florence.
Of work into that game, and give North Carolina credit. They played really well. We knew going in they had a really good team, and they showed it. That's a team that's going to win a lot of football games this year and compete for an ACC championship. And we didn't play well enough, but we come in like we always do after a game. We came in on Sunday, win or lose. There's good and bad that come from every game, and we looked at it, a lot to correct, a lot to build on. And we went right back to work on Sunday, had a good practice Sunday night, and couldn't be more pleased with how the week has gone.
And that was Coach Beamer last night on Carolina Calls. Welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Tyler, West, and Chris giving our final thoughts of we're heading into the weekend and seeing South Carolina at home taking on Furman coming up tomorrow night at 7:30. And again, what is Coach Beamer going to say? That, we had a terrible week of practice. That's exactly what you want him to hear. And, see how that translates on Saturday night.
Yeah, we'll find out. I think it's one of those things. Gamecock fans are kind of right back into show me mode for this game. It's a weird game to try and, I guess, set expectations for because you're sitting there. Veteran Furman team, potentially youth movement for South Carolina. We'll see how much of that we actually see. Home opener, I do think it's a great sign for South Carolina that the game is sold out. Mm-hmm. I kind of wondered, do you lose a little bit of buzz, a little bit of edge after the way the season started? Gamecock Nation shows out once again. There'll obviously be some Furman fans in the stands too, with it being an in-state game. But I think obviously for the most part, a game South Carolina fans will take over. Big student section, it sounds like, one of the largest of all time for South Carolina. I look at this more as an opportunity. I don't know if you can call Furman a get-right game because that's a little bit of a insult to them, I think. But certainly we shouldn't build this Furman team up to be North Carolina or Mississippi State or one of these other teams. South Carolina should have the talent advantage. They do have the talent advantage. It's just a matter of going out there and executing. And, the sort of cliche, you make your most progress from week 1 to week 2. So I think a lot of Gamecock fans interested, maybe still excited to see what that progress looks like.
And the thing that I'm going to be looking at the most in this game, I think whether South Carolina gets the ball first or they get it after whatever Furman does on their first drive, everybody's eyes are immediately going to the starting 5 on the offensive line, right? What does that look like? Are there any completely new faces on there, like a freshman, for instance? Is it Nick Gargiulo sliding out to another spot? Is it, what kind of shifts do we see? Again, going back to the North Carolina game, that to me was the single biggest difference in the football game was the play of the offensive line. Dow Loggins gave the stats: 18 disruptive plays, 9 sacks, a lot of other pressures that you saw that really affected things, and no running room to boot, which then affected the way that you called the game later in the process as well. Later in that contest, South Carolina was still in it despite that. So, that was a weird game. Not all games are going to be like that, including maybe this one. But the starting point for South Carolina is Furman is not a tiny team. Like you might think of some FCS teams, well, they're going to be tiny up front. That's not the case. Furman has a right tackle to 6'7", 342. Like, they've got size. But the overall size is not going to be what South Carolina has. The overall skill and talent level in the trenches is not what South Carolina has. So you got to make that show through. You got to clean up the technical things that we saw on the D-line. The offensive line, you've got to find a winning combination, particularly at the tackle positions. Got to go out there and protect the quarterback and be able to run the football better. So that's the starting point, right? You look at what could South Carolina do to lose this game. I think you start with the turnovers that we've discussed earlier. Furman's been really adept at doing that. South Carolina's got to have a good performance in not turning the football over. And then you look at the trenches. That was the biggest problem in game 1. So go out there, win the trenches, don't turn the football over. And if South Carolina does that, they should be fine in this game.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things. I've been saying it all week long. You can't necessarily come away from this game saying, wow, we fixed everything, it's going to be great going forward. If anything, you're just looking to instill more confidence in your players because, if I'm like Sidney Fugar at left tackle and I go out there and don't give up any sacks on Saturday night, I don't necessarily care about the quality of the opponent. I just went out there and know, hey, I did my job, I did what I'm supposed to do. And that gives me some degree more of confidence going into Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, whatever it may be, knowing that, hey, I have the capability of doing this. Now I got to do it against stiffer competition.
I think we have a habit in sports of kind of treating players like they're static and, this is what my eyes showed me in one game in a big-time atmosphere against another FBS, Power 5, I guess soon to be Power 4 team. And so, these guys can get better. I think we got to remember, Sidney Fugar is a guy who's playing in his first FBS versus FBS game. He's a transfer. I don't think you just completely write these guys off based on one game. But I also think you're going to see South Carolina make some changes up front because it's one thing if you gave up a few sacks as an offensive line, it's another to give up 9. So that probably is something that would require maybe more drastic changes than it would have been if you just had maybe a typical off night versus, frankly, a little bit of a historic off night just in terms of giving up sacks. But I'll say this, Lonnie Teasley, I think he's a great offensive line coach. He's done a fantastic job when he's taken over the last couple of years as the main guy. I think he'll try everything in his power to get this thing fixed. It's going to be a process. It's a work in progress, but it's something that I think we will start to see some movement in the right direction starting this weekend.
Hopefully so. And again, everything kicks off tomorrow night kicks off tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. Myself and Terry Ford will have Gamecocks Game Day for you live from Sound and Images just outside of Williams-Brice Stadium, leading up into network coverage, which begins at 4:30. Going to kick off at 7:30. Quickly, as we get out of here, let's go ahead and throw our picks out there for the people. Or not our score prediction, excuse me.
All right. I've got, and I was laughing, Wes, because you set the line at 20. I've got South Carolina 37, Furman 17.
Okay.
I have South Carolina winning by 21. I think I said 35-14.
I'm going to go South Carolina 34, Furman 17. Think it's going to be tight, but I think
fourth quarter game, according to Tyler, and it's going to rain.
We'll see who's right.
That's one of Shane Beamer's key tenets, win the fourth quarter.
There you go.
Tyler has them doing that.
All right, that'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Halftime show, Jay and Terry from Columbia Craft coming up here on the game.
Introducing Rich Valdez, America at Night, the podcast.
Welcome to the conversation, familia.
A perfect blend of news and entertainment, interviews and insights.
Eye-opening, nothing very surprising, but definitely eye-opening.
America's nighttime town hall whenever you want.
What else could it possibly mean?
Rich Valdez, America at Night.
Let's get to the meat and potatoes of it.
Follow the podcast wherever you listen.